First contact fallout. Commander Elena Reyes stood motionless on the bridge of the ESS Artemis, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that dominated the center of the command deck. The 12 massive ships that had just emerged from what appeared to be artificially generated wormholes hung in space just beyond Jupiter's orbit. Their design was unlike anything humanity had encountered in its relatively brief interstellar explorations. Sleek, asymmetrical vessels with pulsing energy signatures that dwarfed anything in Earth's defense fleet. Still no response to our hails, Commander. Lieutenant Park reported from the communications station, his fingers dancing across the haptic interface. They're scanning us, though. Intensive radiation sweeps across all spectrums. Elena nodded, her short dark hair framing a face marked by the determination that had propelled her through the ranks of Earth's Unified Space Command. Keep broadcasting on all frequencies. Standard first contact protocols. The Artemis was a scout vessel, not designed for confrontation. With a crew of just 27, its mission had been routine surveillance of the outer system mining operations. Now they found themselves as humanity's first line of contact with what was clearly an advanced alien civilization. New energy signature, Commander. The tactical officer called out. They're powering weapons systems. Elena's jaw tightened. Defensive posture, Lieutenant Rodriguez. Shields at maximum. Prepare jump coordinates for emergency translation back to Earth. The tension on the bridge was palpable as a new holographic window opened before them. The alien that appeared had a vaguely humanoid shape, but with iridescent scales covering its elongated skull and 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. When it spoke, the ship's AI translated in near real time. Attention, unidentified vessel. You have entered territory now claimed by the Xorlian Imperium. Your primitive scanning attempts have been noted. Identify your species and home system immediately. Elena straightened her uniform and stepped forward. This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth spaceship Artemis. We are representatives of the United Earth governments. You have entered our solar system, not the other way around. We welcome peaceful contact with the Xorlian Imperium, but we must inform you that this system is sovereign territory of humanity. The alien's upper eyes narrowed. Interesting. Our intelligence suggested this system contained only a pre-FTL civilization. Your vessel's capabilities suggest otherwise. Humanity has been exploring near space for over 70 years. Elena replied carefully. We've established colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan. This entire system falls under our protection. The Xorlian commander made a gesture that the translation algorithm couldn't interpret. Irrelevant. The Imperium requires your system's abundant resources and strategic position. You have 2 of your planetary rotations to arrange your surrender and prepare for integration as a protectorate species. Your technological achievements will be evaluated for possible preservation. Resistance is inadvisable. Before Elena could respond, the transmission cut. She stood silently for a moment, processing the implication of the threat. Orders, Commander. Lieutenant Rodriguez asked. Set course for Earth, maximum safe velocity. We need to warn the Defense Council. As the Artemis's engines engaged, Elena added, and transmit everything we've recorded to Jupiter Station. If we don't make it back, Earth needs to know what's coming. The emergency session of the Earth Defense Council convened within hours of the Artemis return. Representatives from all major nations and colony worlds gathered in the vast underground chamber beneath Geneva. Admiral Hassan, the highest-ranking military official in the Unified Command, stood at the central podium reviewing the data from Elena's encounter. The Xorlian vessels outmass our largest ships by a factor of 10, he explained to the assembled leaders. Their energy signatures suggest weapons capabilities far beyond our standard defense systems. President Cheng of the United Earth Governments leaned forward. What are our options, Admiral? This ultimatum expires in less than 40 hours. Conventional military response would be insufficient, Hassan replied carefully. But perhaps this is the moment we've been preparing for since the quantum revelation. A murmur went through the chamber. For the past 30 years, Earth's greatest scientific minds had been working on technologies derived from the quantum discoveries that had revolutionized human understanding of physics. Most of these advances had been kept classified, developed in secret facilities throughout the solar system. Project Prometheus. General Okafor of the African Coalition asked. Admiral Hassan nodded. Among others, the Chlorlians seem unaware of our true capabilities. That may be our only advantage. President Cheng turned to Alina, who had been invited to the session, as the only human to have directly communicated with the aliens. Commander Reyes, in your assessment, are the Chlorlians prepared for serious resistance, or do they expect us to surrender? Alina considered the question carefully. From their demeanor and approach, I believe they're accustomed to species capitulating to their demands. They seemed genuinely surprised by our level of technology, but not concerned by it. They're expecting either surrender or a token resistance they can crush as an example. Then perhaps it's time humanity demonstrated what happens when you underestimate us. President Cheng said, her expression hardening. Admiral Hassan, initiate Protocol Lazarus. Commander Reyes, you'll lead the diplomatic contingent. Let's show these Chlorlians what they're really dealing with. In the next 36 hours, humanity's response took shape with remarkable efficiency. The protocols that had been established decades earlier, just in case of such a first contact scenario, were implemented across the solar system. Hidden facilities on Mars, Europa, and in the asteroid belt activated systems that had never been deployed outside of testing. When the deadline approached, a small fleet of 5 Earth vessels approached the Chlorlian Armada, which had now moved into position near Mars. The ESS Defiant led the formation, with Alina Reyes now serving as the designated diplomatic officer alongside Captain Miguel Santana. Chlorlian Command Vessel, this is Captain Santana of the Earth spaceship Defiant. We are here to discuss terms as requested. The response was immediate. The same 4-eyed commander appeared on screen. I am Grand Marshal Xel of the Chlorlian Imperium. Your presence with military vessels suggests you do not understand the nature of this interaction. This is not a negotiation. Have you brought the surrender coordinates of your military installations and colony worlds? Captain Santana glanced at Alina, who nodded slightly. We understand perfectly, Grand Marshal, Santana replied. However, humanity respectfully declines your offer of protectorate status. We propose instead a mutual non-aggression pact and trade agreement that would benefit both our civilizations. The Chlorlian scales rippled in what the translation algorithm suggested was amusement or derision. Your confidence is misplaced. Perhaps a demonstration is required. Without further warning, one of the massive Chlorlian vessels fired a concentrated energy beam at Phobos, the smaller of Mars' 2 moons. The beam struck with devastating effect, carving a canyon several kilometers long into the moon's surface. The next demonstration will remove your vessel from existence, Xel stated flatly. Your species has 10 of your minutes to reconsider. Captain Santana remained impassive. That won't be necessary, Grand Marshal. We understood your capabilities from our scans. Now let us show you ours. He nodded to the tactical officer. Across the solar system, the hidden installations activated simultaneously. From beneath the surface of Mars, enormous lift gates opened, revealing missile silos that had been disguised as research facilities. From the Jovian shipyards came vessels twice the size of anything humanity had previously deployed publicly. Most importantly, from Earth itself, a wave of quantum distortion spread outward, invisible except for its effect on the Chlorlian sensors, which suddenly went dark. What is this? Xel demanded, his composure slipping for the first time. What have you done? Quantum field disruption, Alina explained calmly. We've been studying quantum entanglement and field manipulation for decades. Your sensors are now receiving data from an hour ago, on a continuous loop. Additionally, your weapons targeting systems have been temporarily disabled. Xel's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. Impossible. No pre-FTL civilization could develop such technology. That's where your intelligence failed you, Captain Santana said. We haven't shared our full capabilities with the galaxy because we've learned from Earth's history that appearing non-threatening has strategic advantages. But make no mistake, humanity is not defenseless, nor are we naive. As if to punctuate his statement, 3 new Earth vessels emerged from translocation points directly behind the Xorlian fleet, positions that should have been impossible to achieve without being detected. Your ships now face weapons locks from multiple vectors, Alina added. We don't want conflict, Grand Marshal, but we will not be subjugated. The choice is yours. Peaceful coexistence or mutual destruction. For several long moments, the Xorlian commander was silent, his alien features unreadable to human eyes. Finally, he spoke. It seems the Imperium's assessment of your species was incomplete. We will withdraw to evaluate this new information. We'd prefer you stay, Alina countered smoothly, as our guests rather than invaders. There is much our civilizations could learn from each other if approached with mutual respect. The standoff that followed would be remembered as humanity's first true test in the galactic community, a moment when a relatively young species stood their ground against an established power and refused to bow. As the Earth ships maintained their positions, weapons primed but not firing, the future of human-Xorlian relations hung in the balance. On the bridge of the Defiant, Alina Reyes watched the alien commander's face, searching for any sign of what would come next. Humanity had revealed some of its most closely guarded secrets today. Their gamble would either pay off with a new interstellar relationship, or it would trigger a war they might not survive. But one thing was certain: they would not surrender without showing the galaxy exactly what humans were capable of when pushed to the edge. The turning tide. Silence dominated the bridge of the Defiant as Grand Marshal Xel's image flickered on the holographic display. The standoff had lasted 17 minutes, 17 minutes of weapons locked, shields at maximum, and the fate of humanity hanging in the quantum-disrupted space between the two fleets. Your species is unexpected, Xel finally said, his translated voice carrying a tone that the algorithm identified as somewhere between respect and irritation. The Xorlian Imperium does not retreat, but neither do we waste resources on miscalculated engagements. Captain Santana maintained his steady gaze. Then perhaps this is an opportunity for both our civilizations to demonstrate wisdom rather than merely power. A ripple passed through the scales on Xel's elongated skull. We will withdraw to the outer system to reassess. The Imperium will contact you within 3 of your planetary rotations with our decision. The transmission terminated abruptly. On the tactical display, the massive Xorlian vessels began moving away from Mars' orbit, maintaining formation as they retreated toward the asteroid belt. Are they actually withdrawing? Lieutenant Rodriguez asked, disbelief evident in her voice. Tactically, yes, Alina replied, studying the sensor data. Strategically, I doubt it. They're regrouping while they analyze what just happened. Captain Santana nodded grimly. Agreed. They came expecting to find an easy conquest, and instead discovered we have technologies they didn't anticipate. They'll be recalculating their approach, which means we have 3 days to prepare for whatever comes next, Alina said. The captain activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, stand down from immediate battle stations, but maintain yellow alert status. Department heads, report to the strategic room in 15 minutes. He turned to Alina. Commander Reyes, I need you to coordinate with Earth Defense. If the Xorlians come back in force, we'll need everything we've got. On board the Xorlian flagship Eternal Conquest, Grand Marshal Xel faced the holographic projections of the Imperium's High Command. His report on the human encounter had triggered an emergency session of the Conquest Directorate. These humans have concealed their true technological capabilities, he explained, displaying the sensor readings from their brief encounter. The quantum disruption field they deployed suggests advancement in areas the Imperium has only theorized about. High Commander Vexlar, the most senior military leader present, leaned forward. Could this be assistance from one of our rivals, the Arcturus Collective or perhaps the Silicate Concordance? Possible, but unlikely, Till replied. The technology signatures are unique, neither Arcturan nor Silicate in origin, and our intelligence suggests the humans have been isolated until now. They appear to have developed these capabilities independently. Fascinating, interjected Science Director Mira, her six-fingered hands manipulating the data projections. A species developing quantum field manipulation before standardized FTL travel defies all known technological progression patterns. High Commander Vexlar dismissed the scientific curiosity with a wave. The strategic implications are what matter. If they can disrupt our targeting systems and sensors, a direct assault becomes problematic, and we still don't know the full extent of their defensive capabilities. What do you propose, Grand Marshal? Asked Imperial Regent Thorak, the ultimate authority in matters of conquest. Sel considered his response carefully, knowing his future within the Imperium hung on his next decisions. I request reinforcements from the Proxima fleet. With additional resources, we can probe their defenses systematically, identify weaknesses, and overwhelm them through superior numbers. Even advanced technology has limits. The Imperial Regent's compound eyes narrowed. Granted. The subjugation of this system is now your primary directive, Till. The humans have shown themselves worthy adversaries. Conquering them will bring significant prestige to the Imperium, and to you personally. And if their resistance proves more formidable than anticipated, Science Director Mira asked, then we will demonstrate why the Xorlian Imperium has dominated this sector for 12 millennia. Vexlar replied coldly. No emerging species, no matter how clever, has ever withstood our full might. Back on Earth, the Defense Council had expanded to include representatives from all colony worlds and major scientific installations. The holographic chamber beneath Geneva now contained over 200 participants, physically present or connected remotely. Admiral Hassan stood at the center, reviewing the situation. The quantum disruption was successful but temporary. Our analysis suggests that Xorlians will develop countermeasures before their return. Then we need something they won't expect, Elena suggested. She had been recalled to Earth to provide first-hand insight into the alien encounter. Dr. Lakshmi Patel, head of the Quantum Applications Division, activated a new projection in the center of the room. We've been developing something that might serve our purposes. Project Helix, a distributed quantum network that can link all our defensive systems into a single coordinated response mechanism. A neural network for our entire defense grid, General Okafor asked skeptically. More than that, Dr. Patel explained. It would allow us to synchronize our quantum field manipulators across the system. Instead of disrupting their sensors temporarily, we could potentially create localized space-time distortions. You're talking about weaponizing space-time itself, President Cheng said quietly. Dr. Patel nodded. As a defensive measure, yes. We could create corridors of altered space through which only our ships could navigate effectively. How quickly can this be implemented? Admiral Hassan asked. The infrastructure is already in place, Dr. Patel replied. We built the capability into every major installation over the past decade. Just in case, we only need to activate the network and calibrate the field generators. President Cheng surveyed the assembled representatives. This would reveal even more of our technological capabilities to potential alien threats. The security implications are significant. Elena stepped forward. Madam President, with respect, that concern may be outdated. The Xorlians now know we're more advanced than they initially assessed. Hiding our capabilities further serves no purpose if we're conquered. A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber. Very well, President Cheng decided. Implement Project Helix, and may humanity's ingenuity prove sufficient for what comes next. The 3-day grace period passed without communication from the Xorlian fleet. On the 4th day, long-range sensors detected multiple spatial distortions at the edge of the solar system. The reinforcements had arrived. 37 Xorlian warships now approached in a perfect attack formation, led by the original 12. Earth's unified fleet, now numbering 22 vessels from various colonies and Earth defense installations, took up positions in a defensive perimeter around Mars and Earth. The ESS Defiant once again served as the command vessel, with Captain Santana coordinating the human response. Alina had been assigned as his executive officer, her experience with the Xorlians now deemed invaluable. "They're targeting our primary command centers first," Alina observed, watching the tactical display as the alien fleet advanced. "Standard Imperial doctrine. Decapitate leadership, then methodically eliminate resistance." "Exactly as we predicted," Santana replied. "Initiate Helix protocol on my mark." Mark. Throughout the solar system, quantum field generators activated simultaneously. The specialized satellites deployed around key planets and installations connected into a single network, their effects multiplying exponentially. Space itself seemed to ripple as the quantum fields established new patterns in the fabric of reality. On the lead Xorlian vessel, Grand Marshal Xel watched in confusion as his targeting systems began showing contradictory information. "What is happening?" he demanded. "The humans have deployed some kind of system-wide quantum field," his science officer reported. "It's creating micro-fluctuations in space-time. Our ships are reporting position discrepancies of up to 4 kilometers. Compensate," Xel ordered. "Impossible with current parameters," came the reply. "The field variations are non-linear and unpredictable." On the Defiant, Alina watched as the Earth fleet executed a series of maneuvers that would have been impossible without the Helix network guiding them through the distorted space. Each human vessel seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing exactly where the Xorlian defenses were weakest. "First wave, engage," Captain Santana ordered. Earth's ships fired in perfect synchronization. Their weapons, gravimetric torpedoes developed from the same quantum principles as the disruption field, passed through the distorted space and struck with unerring accuracy. 7 Xorlian vessels lost shields instantly. 3 more suffered critical damage to their propulsion systems. "Second wave, execute flanking pattern Delta," Santana continued, his voice calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. The Earth fleet moved with impossible precision, using the quantum corridors to reposition faster than any conventional propulsion would allow. For every Xorlian counterattack, the human vessels seemed to anticipate and evade, striking back from unexpected vectors. On the Eternal Conquest, Grand Marshal Xel watched his carefully planned assault disintegrate into confusion. "How are they predicting our moves?" he demanded. "They're not predicting, Marshal," his tactical officer replied grimly. "They're controlling the battlefield itself. Our ships can't navigate this distorted space effectively, but somehow theirs can." For 42 minutes, the battle raged across the space near Mars. The superior numbers and raw firepower of the Xorlian fleet gradually began to tell, despite the human advantages. 3 Earth vessels had been destroyed and 4 more severely damaged. But the Xorlians had lost 11 ships entirely, with many more rendered combat ineffective. "Marshal," the communications officer interrupted, "the human flagship is hailing us." Xel hesitated only briefly. On screen, Captain Santana's image appeared, the bridge of the Defiant visibly damaged behind him. "Grand Marshal, this conflict can end now. You've seen what we're capable of. Further bloodshed serves neither of our civilizations. The Imperium does not surrender." Xel replied automatically, though with less conviction than before. "We're not asking for surrender," Alina said, stepping into view beside Santana. "We're offering cooperation. The universe is vast, Grand Marshal. Surely there's room for both our species to thrive without destroying each other." Xel studied the humans carefully. "The Imperium has never encountered a species capable of matching our military might." "Then perhaps it's time for the Imperium to evolve," Santana suggested. "As the first species to force you to reconsider conquest, we would make valuable allies." A long silence followed as Xill considered the implications. Finally, he spoke. A temporary cessation of hostilities may be acceptable. For discussions, 3 weeks later, Elena Reyes stood in the observation dome of the newly constructed diplomatic station in Earth orbit. Beside her, Grand Marshal Xill observed the blue planet below. "Your world is beautiful," the Ectorlian admitted. "Different from our homeworld, but impressive in its diversity." "Thank you," Elena replied. "I look forward to seeing Xorlia someday under more peaceful circumstances." The treaty they had negotiated was unprecedented in Xorlian history, a formal recognition of human sovereignty and a non-aggression pact, coupled with limited technology exchange programs. More significantly, it positioned humanity as a recognized power in the sector, no longer an isolated species waiting to be discovered. "Your species achieved in days what others have failed to accomplish in centuries," Xill observed. "You've forced the Imperium to recognize an equal for the first time in our recorded history." Elena smiled. "Humans have always been adaptable. It's our greatest strength. When faced with overwhelming challenges, we don't just survive, we innovate. A dangerous quality in a potential adversary," Xill noted, "a valuable one in an ally." As they watched Earth rotating slowly below them, both understood that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The Xorlian Imperium had encountered something unexpected in this remote solar system. A young species that refused to bow to superior numbers or intimidation. A species that, when faced with a galactic empire, had simply laughed at the odds and changed the rules of engagement. Humanity had announced its presence to the stars not with surrender, but with defiance, and, in doing so, earned something far more valuable than victory in battle: respect.